Hello Wargamers, my name is Chuck, and today we're talking about Rhino overhauling. We're going to be using some of the old RT models. Some of you might have some of those still laying around. They are still very, very inexpensive to pick up. However, they do need a lot of tender loving care. A lot of us know that the Rhino has many variations. This one here happens to be one of the older style Razorbacks. As you can see, there's a lot of extra little bits and bobs from everywhere else on the machine there. Now we're going to go into talking about tools. What tools are we going to need to rebuild our Rhinos? Well, after you've stripped the model down, you're going to need a set of files. Now this is just a set of files from an automotive set, a X-Acto knife or two, more sanding blocks, whether you can build them yourself or get them. They come in all variety shapes and sizes. Even automotive sandpaper works fine too. Just don't go anything heavier than an 80 grit. That will scratch things up. And never ever put sandpaper against clear plastic. You will mess it up very, very fast. Some other things you may want to get is my liquid green stuff. I like to call it Bondo. In this case, we're going to use it much like Bondo in this. A old dry brush, maybe even a little scrubby pad. These are nice. You can just cut them right down, and they're really good for getting little bits off. And of course, some super glue or plastic glue, whichever you prefer. One other item I would suggest getting is a little container. This will hold all your little bits and bebobs as they fall off out of the soup for your Rhino. And it's also a good way to keep track of them so they don't get lost on you. Now, what I've already done here was already strip a model down. Got one of the tracks here. Here's a track that's half empty. And this one's actually going to be a WhirlWind, but we'll get into that later. What we do here is we're going to sand this down. I'm going to get this kind of close here, so you can kind of see the high and low spots over here on the other side. You see there's still a lot of high and low spots on this side here. Now what we're going to do is sand this down really good, and if I can get it good for you, there it is. You can see all the little pits and fissures in here. That's going to be filled up with the Bondo. This is left over from the plastic, where the plastic glue is actually melted into the plastic. So if we look over here on the other side, I've already used several coats of the liquid green stuff and then sand it back down as it dries out, just like you would Bondo. You apply it the same way. You would just use your brush it on, and then I would use a nice piece of extra card here, and you would just slide it over. Something bigger. Notice it's bigger than the vehicle itself, so you can kind of fit to some of the shapes, because it does bevel down here at the top on these Rhinos, on the old Rhinos. So you would just coat this, sand it down like I did here. You can also see some of the pits that are now filled in on this side. And you would just continue doing this all the way around the vehicle on the top. I've done it here. Now be careful, if you don't mind getting rid of the rivets, because there are some little rivets on here, then go ahead and sand to your heart's content. Same on the front here. Now you notice on mine, we had a little problem here where the front plow broke off and took some of the plastic with it. I'm not worried about it because there is enough plastic here left to attach the new prow onto it. I've also put a new plate on top of here for the WhirlWind. Okay, we also do it to the back. Notice I left out the bottom plate here and the two other little plates, I save those. I use them for bits. It's a good thing to have extra pieces. Now this model, this is the WhirlWind that we're talking about here. This is the old style WhirlWind. It's found out of this particular White Dwarf magazine, White Dwarf 117, if you ever want to look it up. Really cheap way to make your own Rhino if you especially got a few chassis laying around. You don't have to use this chassis to use this. It tells you how big the plate needs to be. It tells you what to use to make this top. If you at least have a few of those pieces, you should be good to go. You can also, so you can use it in your newer Rhino setups too. Gives you kind of a 30K or early 40K look to it. As you can see, this has got a couple shields here, an extra sprue, a couple of those bottom plates that I was talking about. It's got a couple of the other top hatch pieces and a couple of the old boxes. This is I believe it's a 40 mil square base. That's what they look like on the ends underneath them. If you flipped them over, they would have all these holes in them, so you can drill out the hole so you can put the guy's foot through it. The little foot pegs. And it's the same on the back. And the sides, they tell you about what size you need to cut for these sides here. There's a couple of little pieces you can add to it. There's a couple of handles you can put on here as well. Now after you've finally sanded this all down nice and smooth all the way around the vehicle, the next stage we'll go into will be priming and of course then painting, which we'll do later on. Some other places you can look for some really good ideas. By the way, that's how bad this side was on that plate. It's just incredible how bad it was when I took it apart. Green stuff is great for Bondo. This is another good book if you don't already have it or have a friend that has one of this. This is really neat. It shows you all sorts of cool stuff to do and do little modifications to your own tanks as well. Of course, this is the newer book on this. And that is it for right now. Join me in the next episode when we'll go through the priming process of it and hopefully get some paint on it. If you like this video, please like, subscribe down below, and let me know what your comments and thoughts are. Thank you.